Good evening. I'm the storyteller here to guide you through deadly love horror tales. Before we start, please subscribe and like the video. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in the comments. When you're ready, get comfortable and relax. Episode 1. The Livestream Room That Never Turned Off the Light. Have you ever heard the sound of your own death? I have, and it was the last sound I carried into the afterlife. It began with the hiss of a blade cutting through air, fast and dry, as if tearing the curtain between life and death. The metallic stench of blood, mixed with the damp smell of rotting wood, it clung to my tongue, sending the temps of iron sliding down my throat. Even as a ghost, that taste stayed on me, like rust that could never be scraped off. I am Ethan Clark, a 21-year-old student in a small northern US town. Before I died, I was a sick kind of curious. Or at least, I convinced myself it was just exploring the internet. But the night I died, I stepped into something I thought was only a rumor. A real red room. Everything started with a link. A pitch-black chat box popped up. White flickering words appeared. "Welcome, Ethan. You found the worst place on the internet." My keyboard clicks echoed in my empty rented room. It was 1:17 a.m. outside the window. The wind hissed through wall cracks, like claws scratching brick. I didn't think much hexed for a shiver of excitement. The screen flickered. Then, suddenly, a video started. The room in the video was small and bare. A single wooden chair stood in the center. A fluorescent bulb dangled above, its pale light like a dead man's skin. I remember hearing its low buzzing dot, as if it was weeping at what it was forced to illuminate. The door opened. A blindfolded man, wearing only black shorts, was shoved inside. Behind him was a woman dressed in all black. Her face was hidden by a smooth mask. I heard the scrape of her rubber sandals on the cement floor, dry, dragging like a knife against bone. When she drew a knife, the metal rang cold and sharp, sharp enough to slice into my ears like a gust of icy wind. She stepped closer to the man and removed his blindfold. That was when I saw his eyes, glazed over, bloodshot pupils, trembling like they were drowning in SEDATIVES. In the chat box beside the video, other viewers began typing. "Cut off a finger. Start with the left hand. Slow." I still remember every detail of that moment. The smell of ozone from the hot bulb, the clacking of keys mixed with my heartbeat, the bitter coffee residue on my tongue, and the victim's eyes looking straight at the camera at me. When the knife went in, bone cracked and flesh tore together. Blood sprayed. Hitting the cement, it gave off a hot, spoiled smell like burnt meat. I didn't turn off the screen. Instead, I swallowed hard and kept watching. One by one, each finger fell. Someone in the chat sent a message. "Now the wrist." She obeyed. I don't know how long I watched, but I remember the last moment clearly. She bent down, slicing a long line across the man's throat. The sound of blood pouring out was like emptying a jug of water, but thicker, heavier, warmer, and then the screen went black. Asterisk, they say death is the end, but that is only a beautiful lie. I never escaped that room, not in a metaphorical way, in the most literal sense. When my neck dropped, I thought I would sink into darkness. I thought I would drift away like falling asleep. But instead, when I opened my eyes, I was still in that same room. The same old wooden chair, the same pale, sickly light, like an abandoned hospital. Only now, my body was lying motionless on the floor. Blood spread into a wide pool, and I, or whatever soul I had, stood right beside it, looking down at myself. The steady drip, 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 came from where the blood hit the floor. The strong metallic stench mixed with the musty paint on the walls. I had never thought smell could be so heavy. It clung to every molecule of air. It slid into my chest. Every time I breathed, even without real lungs, my chest felt thick and clogged. The bulb above my head kept buzzing. Ooh, ooh, dull, monotonous sound. If I were alive, I might have ignored it, but now it slid into every crease of my mind. It scraped through every fold of thought. It made me feel insane. The metal door opened, the hinges screamed, like stretched steel in pain. A man walked in, not the woman from before. He wore a gray hoodie and leather gloves. A harsh chemical smell rolled off him, sharp and cold, like the bleach hospital staff used to wipe operating tables. He didn't look at me. He looked at my body. Then he dragged it out. The sound of bone scraping against cement crackled in the air. It sent a chill through me, even without flesh or skin. The door slammed shut. I thought I would follow my body out, but I didn't. The room stayed the same, and I was still there, alone. I don't know how long time passed. Here, there was no day or night, only the white light shining straight onto the wooden chair. No shadow, only light and emptiness. Then, the door opened again. This time it was a young woman. Her mouth was sealed with tape, her eyes wide with terror. I heard her heart pounding hard, a sound I used to feel only when standing close to someone. Now, as a ghost, I could hear it like a drum, right next to my ear. The woman in black appeared again. Still the smell of leather gloves, still the stale sweat trapped in thick fabric, and another strange scent: burnt wood. Faint but everywhere in the room. I didn't know where it came from, but it made my spine turn cold, because in my memory, that smell often clung to burned human bodies. The girl was tied to the chair. The knife flashed under the light again, and this time, I didn't just watch. I felt it. Every time the blade cut, a wave of cold shot through my hand. Not my real hand, but some invisible link between me and the one about to die. It was as if the room forced me to share the pain of everyone killed here. Her screams were choked by the tape, only muffled, dreadful, trembled in the air. The room was thick with the smell of blood. Her eyes darted everywhere. Then, they stopped on me. I swear she saw me. But right then, I heard something worse than the knife. The sound of keys clacking non-stop, not from the outside world. Inside my head, like someone was chatting directly in my brain. "Welcome, Ethan. Now you're part of the show." I didn't have time to react before an invisible screen flashed into my sight. I saw the chat room. I saw the anonymous names commenting. And then, I realized, one of those names was the same I had seen before I died. Asterisk, do you think a soul is free to drift away after death? I used to think so too. But the truth is, I am locked here, like a pinned file on a screen. Impossible to close. The girl died. Blood seeped into every crack in the wood. When the last drop hit the floor, the whole room went silent. So silent, I could hear the light bulb vibrating. Not the low electrical hum from before. This was different. A faint tapping sound, like someone flicking thin glass. Tick, tick, tick. I looked up. The bulb swayed slightly. There was no wind then. For a split second, its light turned red, bright red, like blood under the sun. In that flash, on the wall opposite the wooden chair, words appeared. Omega, Gata. The letters weren't flat. They looked wet, as if written in fresh blood. Drops slid down, vanishing before they touched the floor. Before I could understand, the door opened. The man in the hoodie returned. But this time, he didn't take the body away. He placed an old laptop on the chair and flipped it open. Its faint blue glow lit his face, and I smelled something so familiar it made me want to gag. The stench of burning plastic. I remembered it. It was the smell from my scorched graphics card. The night I got the first Red Room link. He typed on the keyboard. Each click was sharp and quick, like the heartbeat of someone thrilled. On the laptop screen, I saw a list of names. Real names, not nicknames. The first line was Ethan Clark. Below were people I'd never met. But on the fifth line, I froze. Holly Barrett. I knew that name very well. Not from my life, but from A chat thread I'd read before I died, in a hidden forum. Someone claimed Holly vanished after watching a mysterious livestream on the dark web back then. I thought it was made up, and now, her name sat in the same list as mine. The laptop played a video. Not new footage. It was my own death. I saw myself, died. Each finger cut filmed from an angle I'd never seen before. A view from just behind the masked woman's shoulder. I heard a soft laugh, very close, by my left ear. A man's voice, deep and drawn out. Every victim is a key. I turned around. No one was there. Only a cold breath on my cheek, the smell of disinfectant, and a faint, sharp hint of peppermint, like gum someone had just chewed. The bulb above flared unnaturally bright, flooding the room with blinding white. When my eyes adjusted, the chair was empty. The laptop was gone. Only me remained me. 4 stained walls, and a distant knocking sound. Knock, 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 knock. It echoed through thick concrete, as if someone was knocking. From the other side of a great wall, I understood. This room was not a single place. It was one of many rooms, all connected by doors I hadn't seen yet, and the name Omega Gate was the mark of whoever controlled it all. I knew I would see him again, and when he opened the next door, I would witness more than just one death. Episode 2, The Website with No Way Out. I died while sitting in my swivel chair, in front of my computer screen. No blood, no blades, just my heart stopped before I could close the video. My name is Harper Lynn, second-year journalism student in Chicago. Before I died, I was the kind of person who poked around where I shouldn't. Call it professional instinct, if you want. But it was mostly impulse. That night, my room was heavy with the damp smell of rain from the cracked window. Outside, raindrops hit the street, kicking up the scent of fresh earth. It was moist and faintly sweet, with a sharp edge of rotting leaves. The desk fan blew in little bursts of wind, carrying the papery smell from a stack of damp books in the corner. I only meant to find something to distract myself after fighting with my boyfriend. But when I typed a keyword into the Tor browser, a list of links appeared. Strange names full of symbols and numbers, ending in .onion. One link blinked in soft blue, as if it were breathing. The screen dimmed slightly, then brightened again, like it was pulsing with someone's heartbeat. I clicked it. A black screen appeared with a single sentence. Only those ready to pay the price may see. I chuckled under my breath. Cheap scare tactic, I thought. Then the image appeared. The first room I saw was lit by warm yellow, not the sickly white of horror films. The walls were painted honey gold, gentle and inviting. I heard the slow, creaking turn of a ceiling fan, and there was a smell impossible, yet real drifting through the screen. Cinnamon toast, sweet, fragrant, like a kitchen on a winter morning. A woman sat at a table, peeling an apple. She smiled, her hand deftly guiding a thin knife, curling the skin away in long ribbons. For a moment, I almost forgot where I was, until a hand appeared behind her. A gloved hand, resting lightly on her shoulder, then pressing down. The ceiling fan still turned, but its creak fell out of rhythm. The cinnamon scent in my mind curdled into something bitter, burnt orange peel, as if someone held the peel to a flame, the smoke curling in slow circles. My eyes stung. The man behind her leaned in and whispered something in her ear. The sound was so faint, I had to lean toward the screen, and that's when I realized the sound wasn't coming from the speakers. It was coming from my right beside my ear. Harper, your turn. My heart clenched. I tried to close the browser, but the mouse cursor was gone. The screen dimmed and brightened again, like it was breathing. The second scene loaded a different kitchen, darker, with the slow drip of a leaky tap. A man sat tied to a chair in the middle of the room. In the corner of the screen, a chat box appeared. Viewer names scrolled down, and I saw Ethan Clark. His name lit up, typing a message. Watch out for Omega Gate. A shiver ran down my spine. I didn't know who Ethan was, but I knew Omega Gate. I'd heard it in a disappearance story whispered around an underground forum. Before I could react, the man in the video looked up. His eyes were cloudy white, like frosted glass. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. He spoke and I heard it clearly right there in my room. "Hello, Harper." Asterisk, my name. Harper came from his mouth like a cold hook to the heart. It was not something I merely heard in passing. The sound vibrated against my eardrum. I could feel his breath, warm and close, carrying the bitter scent of fresh black coffee. There was also a faint scorch from over-roasted beans. I recoiled. The swivel chair rolled back until it hit the wall. On the screen, the man still sat in the dark kitchen. The only light came from an old round bulb above, a tired yellow glow about to die. Water dripped from a leaky faucet into a steel sink. Each drop rang out with a metallic note, echoing under the whir of the ceiling fan. Then something froze, the blood in my veins. The camera moved. It was no longer the kitchen. I saw my own room. It was exactly my room, every detail in place. The red hoodie hanging loose on my chair, the damp stack of books in the corner, the half-finished cup of chamomile tea on my desk, steam still curling upward. Its scent was sweet with honey, mixed with the dry grassy note of the flowers. A webcam was on. I swore I had never bought a separate webcam. My laptop didn't even have a built-in camera, so what was recording me? Every pore on my skin felt open. The air grew heavy. It carried the scent of damp paper, the faint plastic heat of electrical cords, and something sickly sweet, like cotton candy, that made my stomach turn. Then I heard typing. Not mine. A chat window popped up on the screen with a new message. "Ethan Clark, you can't shut it off. Omega Gate is open." Before I could reply, the image changed. The wide shot of my room shifted into a close-up of my face. It showed each stray hair by my temple. It showed the bead of sweat sliding from my forehead down my cheek. I jerked upright. My back hit the wall, cold to the touch. The wall trembled slightly, as if someone were pounding from the other side. The pounding slowly matched my heartbeat into a steady thump, 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 without end. On the screen, I saw myself leaning toward the lens, but the real me stood frozen, pressed against the wall. The me in the video whispered, lips barely moving, "There's no way out, Harper." The sound came from the computer, but I also heard it from inside my closet, just a few steps away. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but my body felt heavy, as if my lungs were filled with water. The air reeked more strongly of mold, with an undertone of burnt sugar. The screen went black. White letters appeared, one by one, slow and deliberate, carving themselves into my vision. "Welcome to Omega Gate." Asterisk, I didn't know how long. I stared at that line of text. My eyes felt glued to the 4 words. "Welcome to Omega Gate." Each white letter glowed as if poured from condensed milk. The light dripped downward, falling off the screen without vanishing. It fell for real, landing on the desk, cold and damp, like rain off a roof. The smell in the room changed. The scent of damp paper and burnt sugar vanished. In its place came the smell of wet oak, the kind I had smelled when visiting a wine cellar with my mother in the suburbs. Damp, cool, so thick it felt like drinking the air. The keyboard typed on its own. I watched each key sink down. The clicks came steady, like an old typewriter. A line appeared, "Sit down." The swivel chair at the desk slowly turned toward me, untouched. A cold draft slid across my ankles. It climbed up my calves, as if an invisible creature wrapped around me. I wanted to stay still, but my mind grew hazy. My heartbeat was no longer fast. It slowed. It grew heavy. Each beat echoed in my chest like a drum struck deep underwater. I sat down. The screen blazed bright. The image of my room gone. In its place, the face of a young man, black eyes, staring straight into me. Behind him was a bare white wall. On it, a hand-drawn black emblem, a circle enclosing the omega symbol, with a single line at the bottom like a door. He smiled. "Welcome, second key." I heard another voicemail, familiar from the darkness behind him. "Harper, don't look into his eyes." I knew that voice. Ethan Clark. I turned my head to search. No one there. Yet I felt someone standing close behind me, warm breath against my neck, with a faint scent of mint. The man on the screen tilted his head. He studied my reaction like a cat watching prey. "Each death opens a door," he said, "and we have opened two." The screen went black. I heard my heartbeat stop, not a vague feeling, but a sharp snap, like a string cut. My body slid from the chair, hitting the floor. The room's temperature plunged, waves of cold pouring in like wind from an ice vault. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in my rented room. I stood in an empty chamber, concrete walls, white light from a single bulb. It shone down on a lone wooden chair in the center, exactly like the place where Ethan had been killed. And just as I feared, Ethan was there, standing in the corner, eyes locked on me. He stepped forward, voice low and slow. "Welcome to Omega Gate, Harper. Now we're trapped here, with the others." I wanted to ask who the others were, but then, the metal door in the right-hand wall swung open, hinges screaming, and a new figure stepped inside. Episode 3. The Debt That Cannot Be Repaid. My name is Colin Wade, or rather, it was Colin Wade. Now I am only a drifting echo, somewhere between these cold walls. I died on what seemed like an ordinary evening. That night, I had just argued with my girlfriend Marissa over something trivial. But her anger turned into something else when I opened my laptop and found my inbox filled with photos of Marissa. Not normal photos. These were pictures she would never send to anyone. Every shot was taken while she was in her room, but the lighting, the angles, didn't match any camera I knew we had. I remember the smell when I opened that email. Cold coffee left on the desk since morning, mixed with the damp cotton scent from the hoodie hanging on the chair. The air felt heavier than usual, like my room had been sealed all day. I didn't understand. She didn't send them. I didn't take them, so who did? I clicked on an attached file, my hand shaking. The image appeared, and in the bottom left corner, I saw a tiny symbol, a circle, enclosing the letter Omega, with a single horizontal line beneath it, like a door. I had never seen this logo before, but when I hovered the cursor over it, the photo began to fade, and white text appeared. The third key. Before I could process it, a chat window popped up in the corner of the screen. First message: Ethan Clark, Colin, don't open anymore. Second message: Harper Lynn, if you're reading this, it means Omega Gate has called you. I almost dropped the laptop. I didn't know who those two were. I had never met them. But how did they know my name? And how were they inside my private chat window without even adding me? At that moment, the smell in the room changed completely. The cold coffee scent vanished. In its place came the smell of new plastic, like opening a box of electronics for the first time. Sharp, fresh, and unnervingly clean. The screen flared bright, and a video began to play. In the video, I was sitting at my laptop, same clothes I was wearing now, same position, same room. But there was one difference. On my shoulder, a strange hand rested, its thumb gently touching the back of my neck. That hand didn't belong to anyone in my house. Asterisk, that hand was cold, not the hard cold of metal or stone. It was a soft cold, seeping through my skin like touching melting snow. The thumb pressed lightly against the back of my neck. I heard a faint click, like removing a battery from a camera. My whole body suddenly felt weightless, but my heart pounded so hard I thought my chest would burst. The smell of new plastic in the room began to thin. It was replaced by the sharp, pungent scent of wet paint. It burned my eyes. I turned my head to swat the hand away, but there was no one there. The touch was still there, completely invisible. The laptop in front of me switched the camera toward the window. On the screen, I saw the outside, but it wasn't the familiar street in front of my house. Instead, it showed a long corridor. White light spilled from round bulbs hanging evenly along both sides. Each bulb was exactly 4 steps apart. The walls were smooth, damp, and stretched so far I couldn't see the end. A message appeared in the middle of the frame. Ethan Clark, when you see the hallway, it means the door is open. Harper Lynn, don't resist, or you'll vanish, completely. I wanted to shout and ask what vanish meant, but my throat was locked tight. When the smell of wet paint grew unbearable, the hallway on the screen began to move, as if I were walking into it. The hand on my neck pressed harder. I felt myself tipping forward, but the chair didn't fall. My feet didn't move. Only the world around me slid away. My room blurred, colors draining until only white and gray remained. The sound of the fan, the traffic outside, all gone. They were replaced by a single noise, the low, buzzing hum of fluorescent lights. It droned like bees trapped in a sealed box. A different scent filled my nose. The mint shampoo I used back in high school. Sweet, cool, strangely out of place here. When my vision steadied, I was standing in the very hallway from the video. In front of me was a gray metal door. At its center was the bold symbol of a circle enclosing Omega, with a single horizontal line beneath, like a carved mark. The door opened on its own, the hinges screeching dry and harsh. Inside was a square room. A single white light shone straight down on a wooden chair in the center. Ethan leaned against the left wall. Harper stood on the opposite side. Both looked at me as if they had been waiting a long time. Ethan nodded. Welcome, third key. Harper stepped closer, her eyes heavy with sadness. You've been pulled in, Colin. Now, this debt can never be repaid. I was about to ask what debt, but from beyond the door, I heard heavy footsteps approaching. The sound echoed deep, as if rising from underground. The footsteps grew louder, heavy, slow, each step deliberate, as if to announce, I am coming. The concrete walls trembled with every impact. The ceiling still cast white light, but it shifted toward a pale blue, like the glow inside a giant aquarium. The air grew colder. The smell of damp wall paint mixed with something else, orange essential oil, sweet, cool citrus. It might have been pleasant anywhere else, but here, it sent a shiver up my spine. It was hiding something worse. The way perfume hides the stench of rot. He appeared in the doorway, a tall man in a buttoned black shirt and pressed trousers, hair neatly combed, but his face didn't seem entirely of this world. His skin was impossibly smooth, without a single crease. His eyes deep and glossy, like black glass, reflecting everything around him. Pinned to his chest was a small metal brooch, a circle enclosing the Omega symbol. He looked at me, no smile, no frown, just looking, and in that instant, every private memory I had came rushing back at once, as if someone was rifling through every drawer in my mind. Colin Wade, he said, his voice warm enough to be unreal. You've taken something that doesn't belong to you. I wanted to argue, but Ethan's hand closed on my shoulder, a light squeeze, telling me not to. Harper stepped back, her eyes never leaving him. He went on, the debt must be paid, not with money, not with blood, but with your very existence. Before I could grasp the meaning, he reached into his shirt pocket and took out a photograph. The print was glossy, the scent of fresh ink still sharp. It was me, but not alive. It was me, as a ghost, standing in this wooden chair room beside Ethan and Harper, in the lower corner. Red letters read, Key number 3, collected. He slipped the photo into an old leather-bound book, then turned away. Before leaving, he said, 5 keys remain. When they're all gathered, the gate will open. The hinges slammed shut with a crack like a gunshot. The air in the room fell still, but in my head the smell of orange oil lingered alongside his words. I looked at Ethan. What gate? He only said, the one you don't want to know about, unless you want to vanish forever. In the corner, Harper lowered her head and whispered, almost too soft to hear, the 4th key is coming soon. Episode 4. The Code That Never Finishes Running. My name is Miles Carter. When I was alive, I was a freelance hacker, not the prodigy type you see in movies, just skilled enough to dig up secrets and reckless enough to sell them to the highest bidder. I used to believe every system on the net had a flaw, but one night, I touched a door I could never hack my way back out of. They called it the Omega Gate. That night, my room was pitch dark except for the glow of 3 monitors. The air was thick with the smell of fresh coffee, dark roast, bitter, slightly burnt, but sharp enough to keep my eyes open. Beside my desk, the fan blew warm air, carrying the scent of overheated plastic from a CPU running at full load. I was cleaning up an abandoned forum when I found an old .skl file. Its name was ordinary, but when I opened it, it contained only one line of code. If key equals 8, open _gate omega, no other database, no tables, no columns, just that line. I laughed, a joke from some bored programmer, maybe. But the moment I saved the file, my mouse cursor went wild. Without my touch, the screen opened a new terminal window. Lines of commands typed themselves at high speed, the keyboard clicking steadily, like rain tapping on a tin roof. On the black background, text appeared, "Welcome, Alpha is expecting you." Before I could react, the speakers popped softly, like opening a soda can. A cool scent flooded the air, mint, with a trace of warm sandalwood. It was so strange and refined that for a second, I forgot I was in danger. Then a voice spoke, deep, slow, resonating as if from inside the walls. "Miles Carter, hacker of debts unpaid." I glanced around. No one in the room. The door was still locked, but on the center monitor, a webcam feed appeared, not from my WEBCAM. It was a camera filming my own room from high above, showing the back of my head. Bent over the desk, I opened my network monitor. No outbound signal. Not a single packet was leaving my machine. So how was this thing streaming? As soon as I wondered, the feed shifted from wide shot to a close-up of my face. My eyes no longer reflected the monitor's glow. They were just 2 black hollows. I swore and reached for the power cable. But the CPU light stayed on. The fan kept spinning. The smell of hot plastic thickened, mixing with coffee into a dense, dizzying haze. The voice came again. "You will be the 4th key." I dropped into my chair, fingers flying across the keyboard, trying to break free. On the screen, a list of names appeared. Each name had a number. Ethan Clark, Harper, Lynn Colin Wade. Empty. As I stared at the blank space, my own name appeared. Miles Carter. I heard knocking. 3 knocks, steady rhythm, thud, thud. The sound didn't come from my real door, but from the computer speakers at the same time. The exact same knocks echoed from the hallway outside my apartment. I stood and gripped the doorknob. The metal was cold, but not ordinary cold. It pulsed faintly, as if something alive was on the other side. When I opened it, it wasn't my apartment hallway. It was a square white room. In the center stood a single wooden chair, exactly like the rumors. I'd heard about a mystery livestream room on the dark web, and there they were, Ethan, Harper, and Colin, each standing in a corner, eyes locked on me. Harper spoke. First, her voice quiet, but clear. "You've heard Alpha, haven't you?" I nodded. They exchanged a glance, as if confirming something critical. Ethan stepped closer and set a hand on my shoulder. "Welcome, 4th key. But this time, Alpha isn't just collecting debts. He's preparing to open the gate. I didn't have time to ask what gate before the door behind me slammed shut. The scent of mint and sandalwood spread thick through the room, until I could barely breathe. Ethan spoke the last words I heard before darkness swallowed me. Once you've heard Alpha's voice, you're no longer on this side. I woke up on the wooden chair. Its four legs rested on cold, damp concrete. The chill seeped from the soles of my feet up my spine. There were no restraints, but my whole body felt heavy, as if molten lead had been poured into every joint. White light beamed straight down from a ceiling bulb. It was so bright that my eyelids couldn't block it. I could hear the faint buzz of electricity in the wires above, steady as insects humming right beside my ear. The scent of mint still lingered, but now it was layered with something else. The sandalwood was stronger, warmer, sliding deep into my nose, making me want to inhale more and recoil at the same time, as if I were breathing in medicine far too potent. Then he stepped in. Alpha. No longer the hazy figure from the screen, now a tangible form, tall, thin, a black dress shirt, perfectly pressed without a single wrinkle, dark tailored trousers, polished black leather shoes that caught the light. His face was flawless to the point of being unnatural, as if someone had rendered it in 3D software and then printed it in real skin and blood. His eyes were deep and bright, neither fully black nor gray, a color that made you stare, even as instinct screamed to look away. He stopped right in front of me, close enough for me to feel his breath. It had no odor, not foul, not pleasant, just absence. The emptiness made my skin crawl. "Miles Carter," he said slowly, each word slicing through the air. "Do you know why you're here?" I swallowed hard, my throat dry, because I opened that file. He smiled, a smile that never touched his eyes. "No, because you interrupted a cycle. You don't understand, but the Omega Gate needs 8 keys to open. You are number 4. I started to ask open what, but he leaned in, whispering right beside my ear. "Open a place the living cannot enter, and the dead cannot leave." The moment his words ended, it felt as if someone had injected a program into my brain. Not pain, but definite. Characters, numbers, and symbols streamed before my closed eyes. A ticking sound echoed inside my head, steady like a countdown. "The final command has run," he said. "From now on, you are no longer human. You are the door." I opened my eyes. Ethan, Harper, and Colin still stood in their corners. But now I saw it. They weren't truly standing there. The outlines of their bodies blurred like smoke, sometimes warping before snapping back into shape. Harper spoke softly. "Don't try to remember what it felt like to be alive. It will only make you weaker." Alpha turned away. Before leaving, he looked back and said, 4 keys are in place. The 5th is already finding its way here." The door slammed shut, and the room trembled faintly. Inside my head, the code kept running, line after line, rolling upward like an endless tide. I didn't understand all of it, but one section stood out clearly. "Execute Omegan." Below it, in the comments, there was a single line: "No one returns." I sat on the chair, listening. 2. Alpha's footsteps fade away. No more door slams, no more hum from the ceiling lights. Only the code kept running in my head, line after line, relentless, unending, never slowing. My body began to change, not in pain, but fading. My hand was still there, but when I tried to touch my face, my fingers passed through my cheek like smoke. I smelled ozone, that dry, slightly sweet scent you notice when air compresses before a lightning strike. Ethan stepped forward, his hand passing through my shoulder. It didn't feel like touch, but like a cold gust of wind slipping through a gap in my body. "Welcome, Miles," he said. "Now you understand what we are." Harper stood nearby, her eyes fixed on the door Alpha had gone through. Each key is a small gate, but when all 8 are collected, All gates merge into one, Colin interjected, his voice rough, and then, it won't just be us here. Whatever is on the other side will come through. I wanted to ask what whatever on the other side meant, but at that moment, the room's scent changed. Mint and sandalwood vanished, replaced by the strong, heavy smell of freshly dug damp earth. Ethan glanced at Harper. It's coming. Harper nodded and stepped into the center of the room. I heard rapid breathing, not ours, but very close, as if someone were running and about to crash into the room. Alpha had been right. The fifth key was finding its way here, on its own. The door burst open with a loud bang. Light from the hallway poured in, bringing a young girl with it. Her hair was wet, hoodie gray and soaked with rain, sneakers caked in mud. Her eyes were wide. Her chest heaved. The scent of mud and cold rain mixed with damp earth, making the room feel like a forest path after a storm. She looked around at the four of us, or rather, the four ghosts, and gasped, "Help me. Please help me. Someone is hunting me." Ethan stepped forward, but Harper blocked him. It's too late. Once she steps into this room, she becomes a key. Colin looked at me and said softly, "The fifth key," and a new story begins. Episode 5. The Prey. My name is Lena Park. Or, it used to be. I died on a rainy night, while running from something no one believed existed. Funny enough, I never believed in ghosts or spirits, but I believed in a killer out there, and I believed he was following me, step by step. That night, I came home late from my shift at the coffee shop. The smell of roasted coffee clung to my clothes, mixed with the scent of cheap nylon raincoat, a damp, sharp, yet familiar plastic smell. The streets glistened under the steady rain. Yellow streetlights reflected on the wet asphalt, forming blurred streaks like oil paint smeared by water. I put on my headphones, but didn't play music. The cords dangled like an excuse, so anyone watching would think I couldn't hear anything. But I wanted to hear. I wanted to know if someone was following me at first. It was just footsteps matching my pace. Maybe someone's walking the same way, I told myself. But when I changed my pace, slowed, then sped up, the other footsteps matched perfectly. A musty scent drifted past, not from the street, but from the wind behind me. I had smelled it before, in an abandoned wine cellar with friends. Thick, heavy, making your throat feel dry. I glanced over my shoulder. No one. But instinctively, I knew it was still there. I turned into a narrow alley, trying to lose my tail. The alley was dark, walls covered in wet moss, mixed with the rusty scent from water pipes running along the walls. Cold puddles seeped over my shoes, slipping into my socks, making every step heavier. The footsteps vanished. Instead, I heard another sound, knock, 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 steady, echoing through the alley, like someone tapping a metal door somewhere, but the sound didn't come from in front or behind. It came from all around. I started running, not knowing where to go, only that I had to escape the alley. Rain lashed my face, salt of sweat mixing with the faint metallic taste of rainwater. My lips dried out. Hot breaths escaped in bursts, mixing with the cold air, burning my throat. And then, I saw the door. It didn't belong to any building here, just a gray metal door, standing alone in the alley, as if someone placed it there. In the rain, a symbol was engraved in the center, a circle surrounding the letter, Omega, with a horizontal line carved beneath it. The knocking came again, this time, from the other side of the door. I didn't think. I opened the door and stepped inside. Immediately, the smell of rain and moss vanished, replaced by peppermint mixed with warm sandalwood. The room was bright white, a wooden chair in the center, and faux figures standing in the corners, staring at me. Only then did I realize no, they were not human. Their skin was translucent, edges blurring in the light, and their eyes of those who had seen what the living should never witness. Ethan, Harper, Colin, Miles. I didn't know who they were, But I realized one thing. I had just become a part of this place. Asterisk, no one spoke immediately. They just stared at me, as if judging how I would react to understanding. Ethan spoke first, voice even and low. "Did you hear the knocking?" I nodded. "It's out there, hunting me." Colin pressed his lips together, eyes fixed on the floor. Miles stepped back into the shadows, half his face in darkness. Harper moved closer, a hint of peppermint lingering around her like a thin mist. Harper said, "That knocking isn't from a person. It's a signal, a call from the other side." I frowned. "The other side? What do you mean?" Harper didn't answer immediately. She looked at Ethan. Ethan gave a slight nod, as if granting permission. "The other side," Harper continued, "is where the Omega Gate opens. It's not the world of the dead, nor the realm of the living. It's a crack, and whatever is inside doesn't want to stay trapped for long." Miles interjected, voice harsh. "Each key, a soul like us, is only part of the mechanism to open the gate. When all 8 are present, it will break free." Colin glanced at me, eyes cold. "And when it breaks free, nothing will hold it back. The living will hear the knocking before they vanish." A chill ran down my spine, even though I was already dead. "So, what is it?" I asked. Ethan answered with 3 words, clear and slow. "No one knows, but we call it the Hunter." The moment the words left his mouth, the ceiling lights flickered. White light shifted to green in an instant, then returned to normal. But the peppermint in the room suddenly intensified, overpowering the sandalwood scent. Miles glanced around. "It's getting closer. That door has partially opened." I turned toward the door I had just entered. No hallway light remained, only a dense darkness, and the knock, knock, knock echoed back, this time not from afar, but as if right next to my ear. Harper stepped back, eyes wide. "This time, it's not coming for a key. It's here to try breaking the gate." Asterisk, the knock, knock, knock came again. But now, each strike pierced the air, hitting my bones directly. It wasn't a sound coming from somewhere. It was a vibration filling the room, forcing me to feel it, whether I wanted to or not. The ceiling lights flickered repeatedly. Each flash revealed black streaks crawling along the walls, like dried roots. They moved slowly, but when the light went out, they had advanced several inches. The peppermint scent vanished completely, replaced by a cold, hollow smell, like opening a long-unused freezer. The scent had no physical form, yet it made my skin tingle painfully. Ethan turned to me. "When it touches the room, never look into its eyes. Once you do, you'll follow it. No one can pull you back." Harper stepped forward, standing near the door, whispering something in a language I had never heard, low, urgent, each word slicing through the air. Faint symbols appeared on the door's surface, like carvings glowing dimly. Miles looked at me. "This is your first time seeing it, but it's the 3rd time it's found this room. Each time it comes closer. We are running out of time." The knocking stopped. Absolute silence. Even the hum of the lights vanished. Then, a hand slammed against the inner side of the door from the darkness, pale. Unnaturally long fingers, knuckles sharply protruding, blackened nails. Each finger tapped lightly on the metal, but not in a steady rhythm, a chaotic series of sounds, like a madman's Morse code. Harper gritted her teeth, voice sharp. "Don't let it open this door. If it gets in, Alpha will get what he wants." I turned to her. "What does Alpha want from it?" Miles replied, eyes never leaving the hand. "He doesn't need it trapped. He wants it released. The Omega Gate is the lock. 8 keys aren't to imprison, but to open." The door shook violently, light from the faint symbols fading. Ethan shouted, "Step back." The lights went out. In the dense darkness, I saw 2 eyes, perfect black pits, appear from the void behind the door. A cold wind swept through, carrying the smell of decayed earth and something sickly sweet, like overripe fruit. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying not to look, but I could still feel. It was smiling. A thud echoed. When I opened my eyes, the door was shut tight, the hand gone. Only the smell of decayed earth lingered, seeping into every crevice of memory. Ethan exhaled. This time, we held it. But next time, who knows? Harper looked at me, eyes sad. Lena, now you understand. We aren't just keys. We are bait, to lure it to the moment Alpha needs. And at that moment, I knew that moment was coming soon. Episode 6. My name is Raymond Hale. The day I died began like any other day, but ended with a sound I will never forget. The small click of a severed line. I used to work at a cybersecurity company. A boring job, monitoring incoming and outgoing data, checking access logs, stopping password leaks. But one night, I accidentally accessed an unencrypted channel. I remember the smell in the server room that night, a mix of plastic from cables, dust blown by cooling fans, and the faint metallic temps of a constantly running CPU. The fans hummed steadily, like distant waves. I was scanning the logs when I noticed a strange IP not belonging to any device in the system. I opened a connection to test it. Immediately, the speakers emitted a breath, slow, deep, and too deliberate to be noise. Then a man's voice spoke, deep and clear, each word dropping like stone. The sixth key is asleep. Wake it. I thought briefly it was an inside joke, but when I typed "who's there" into the chat window, no text appeared. Instead, a knock, knock, knock echoed steadily, hitting my headphones, as if someone tapped directly on my eardrums. At that moment, a faint cold peppermint scent drifted by, completely out of place in the stuffy, machine-filled room. I looked up. The server room was empty. Yet, I felt someone standing right behind me. I turned, seeing no one, but on the screen. The chat window had switched to live video, a white room with a wooden chair in the center. 4 figures stood in each corner, their outlines blurry like mist. One of them looked straight at me through the screen and said, "Don't let him know you're listening. Disconnect, now." But I was too late. A click sounded the line. Cut. All lights on the network panel went out at once, leaving me in dense darkness. Only the laptop screen blinking like a chaotic heartbeat. The peppermint scent intensified, mixed with the warm smell of sand. I felt my chest grow heavy, as if something was pressing from the inside out. The breathing sounded again, closer, wetter, accompanied by a faint metallic vibration. Then the same man's voice, still deep and even. "Raymond Hale. Now, you are part of the wing." Before I could react, everything went black. I opened my eyes. No longer in the server room. I was sitting on the wooden chair, cold concrete seeping through my feet. The room was white, blindingly lit, and I saw 5 figures. Ethan, Harper, Colin, Miles, Lena. They looked at me with a mix of pity and acceptance. Miles stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder, the sensation like wind passing through flesh. "Welcome. 6th key," Lena added, voice soft but audible. "And from now on, the hunter will come closer." Asterisk, when I realized I was no longer breathing. I thought panic would crush every thought, but instead, my mind cleared strangely, as if losing a heartbeat had freed some occupied memory. Ethan pulled me from the chair, leading me to a corner of the room. The sensation of his hand on my shoulder was not weight, but a cold current seeping into bone. "You heard him speak when you were alive, right?" Ethan asked. I nodded a bit. "I just remember he said, 'Wake the 6th key.'" Colin frowned, turning to Harper. "That means he knew exactly who the key would be." Lena interjected, "This isn't new. Alpha doesn't just search for keys, he creates them." I frowned. "Creates how?" Harper explained, voice even, without emotion. "He uses the hunter to break a person's boundaries. Each time the hunter touches someone, a part of their soul separates from the body. If that part has a specific trait, it becomes a key. Miles added, Alpha knows how to mark those with the trait before the hunter arrives. Like you, he called you directly. As Harper spoke, old memories surfaced. That night, before I heard the breathing and the knocking, I had heard another conversation, Alpha speaking to someone I had never identified. Alpha, the signal. Sequence is set. The hunter will recognize and follow the trail. The other voice, and the final key. Alpha, when the 8th key is ready, the Omega Gate will open, and no one can close it. At the time I thought it was a cheap movie script. Now I knew. It was the real plan. The ceiling lights trembled slightly. The peppermint scent in the room suddenly intensified, as if someone had crushed a bunch of leaves and released the oil into the air. Harper glanced up, eyes narrowed. It's scanning around. The hunter is seeking the 7th key. Ethan turned to me. If you hear his voice again, remember every word. Each sentence is a code segment, and once all 8 segments are complete, he won't need the keys anymore. The gate will open by itself. I wanted to ask what 8 code segments meant, but their eyes told me. The answer would not be pleasant. Asterisk. The ceiling lights flickered wildly. White fragments of light shattered, dancing on the walls like stranded silver fish. At the same time, the peppermint scent thickened, as if someone shoved fresh leaves into my nose, mixed with warmth and elwood. But now it made me feel suffocated. Miles tilted his head, listening to a sound I hadn't noticed at first. Then I heard it. The knock. Knock knock, echoing irregularly. 3 quick taps, 2 slow, then 3 quick again. A strange sequence, unlike any before. Harper whispered, It's sending a code. Ethan looked at me, eyes piercing. Did you hear it clearly, Raymond? This is your only chance to remember. I closed my eyes, trying to analyze the rhythm of the knocks. Then a flash of memory appeared. This rhythm I had heard while alive, in a system recording. Not a knock on a door, but the Alpha Awakening code used to call a new key. I opened my eyes. I know where it's searching. An abandoned broadcast station on the outskirts. I once traced this signal there before. Colin gritted his teeth. So the 7th key is there. I nodded. The lights went out. In the darkness, the knocking ceased, replaced by another sound, something heavy being dragged across concrete, slowly approaching. A cold, empty scent rushed in, identical to the abandoned freezer smell I had experienced. Lena whispered. It has left its old position. Now it knows. We know. A loud thud came from the door. The metal vibrated, the faint cymbals flickering as if being worn away. Harper stepped back, voice urgent. We have to move before it. If not, the 7th key won't just die. It will die in Alpha's hands. I turned to Ethan. How do we go? We're no longer human. Ethan only smiled, a thin, unsettling smile, offering no comfort. The Omega Gate doesn't just open outward. It opens into other places, and we will use that crack itself. When the lights came back on, I saw the room had transformed. 4 white walls now covered with black, winding cracks, each fissure seeming to breathe. Colin murmured, almost to himself. Begin the reverse hunt. Episode 7, The Reverse Hunt. When the black cracks on the walls began to breathe, the white room of the Omega Gate was no longer a refuge. Each time a fissure widened, a cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of damp earth and the musty scent of old paper, wet and dried again. Ethan stood before the largest crack, tilting his head. This is the only way out, without it detecting us immediately. Raymond didn't know if it meant the hunter or Alpha, but in his tone, both were equally dangerous. Lena grabbed my hand, whispering, The first time you step out will be different. Close your eyes when you pass through, or you'll see things you can't forget in time. Miles smirked. Actually, even if you close your eyes, you won't forget anyway. Harper was the first to step. As her foot vanished through the crack, there was no sound, only her light fading like ink dissolving in water. It was my turn. When my hand touched the edge of the fissure, it didn't feel like stone or wood, but the cold skin of a sleeping giant, a thin layer, beneath it a slow, steady pulse. I closed my eyes. Immediately, all senses inverted, the peppermint scent vanished, replaced by a faint smell of burning plastic. A high-pitched screech rang, like millions of strings being stretched. No weight, no direction, only the sensation of being pulled through a narrow, endless tube. Then, I fell. We landed in a wasteland, wind howling fiercely, carrying the smell of salt and decayed seaweed. In the distance, an abandoned broadcast station stood, its rusty antenna leaning dangerously. The metal roof panels creaked with each gust, creating a sound identical to the knocking I had once heard from the hunter. Colin glanced around, voice low. The seventh key is here. But we're not the only ones searching. Harper closed her eyes, listening. 2 signals, one of it. She opened her eyes, looking toward the wind, and one of Alpha. Lena turned to me. You know, the hunter isn't entirely Alpha's pawn. Actually, Alpha is holding a part of it. It wants to reclaim it, Miles added. And to reclaim it, it needs the Omega Gate to open. That's the only common point between it and Alpha. Both want the gate open, but for different reasons. I asked. So who's more dangerous? Ethan just smiled, saying nothing. But looking into his eyes, I understood. There is no answer of less dangerous. Harper signaled for silence. From the direction of the station, a knock, knock, knock sounded, this time not echoing in the head, but clearly on the ground, as if someone was tapping the tower's base. The wind carried a faint, briny smell like rainwater long stagnating in a tank, mixed with the acrid scent of burning wires. Ethan clenched his fists. It was here before us. We approached the broadcast station from the upwind side, avoiding letting our signals be carried toward the hunter. Beneath our feet, tall weeds soaked in night dew, each step accompanied by a wet rustling sound, the scent of crushed young grass, mixed with rusty metal from the broken antenna, creating a bitter, choking smell. The station stood alone, surrounded only by the wind slapping against the empty metal frame. Each knock, knock, knock echoed like the heartbeat of a living object, resonating through every sheet of steel. Harper signaled us to stop. She pointed to a slightly open door at the base of the building, the darkness inside so dense that not even moonlight could penetrate. Ethan looked at me, whispering, "You've worked in places like this. Any other way in?" I nodded, pointing behind where a rusty metal staircase led to the second floor. With a broken window, Colin and Miles took the main entrance, while Lena, Ethan, and I chose the stairway. When my hand touched the railing, flakes of rust crumbled, falling with a clatter onto the concrete below. The smell of old iron mixed with damp dust made me shiver, exactly like the scent in the server room the night I died. We slipped onto the second floor. Moonlight shone through gaps in the roof, forming narrow beams of light. In one patch of light, I saw a person. She sat slumped in a corner, hugging her knees, trembling. Her breaths were quick and shallow. Sweat mingled with the smell of burning electronics clinging to her hair. Her wide eyes fixed on the darkness below, where the knock, knock, knock still echoed steadily. Lena whispered, "The seventh key." Harper and Colin climbed up from below, nodding in confirmation. But before we could reach her, another sound arose, the scrape of long fingernails on metal, slowly dragging. From the dark gap at the end of the hallway, a pale hand reached out, fingers long and curved, joints protruding. Then a second hand. Then the thin, unnaturally long body of the hunter slithered out, moving not by feet, but by clinging to walls and ceiling like a spider. The girl screamed, her voice hoarse, at the same time. A whistle rang from outside, high, cold, with a strange rhythm. We all turned toward the window. Below in the yard, A figure in a long cloak stood still. I immediately recognized Alpha. Harper ground her teeth. Damn it. He came too. The hunter paused, tilting its head toward Alpha. For a moment, I saw clearly. It didn't attack immediately, as if waiting for orders, but its empty black eyes were fixed on the girl, a gaze both hungry and wary. Ethan spoke quickly. We have to get her out before both of them strike. But before we could act, Alpha's voice boomed, echoing as if through the metal of the entire building. Seventh key. Choose. One is me, the other is it. The girl trembled, yet her eyes remained on the hunter. I suddenly understood, whichever she chose, the outcome would pave the way for the Omega Gate. Asterisk, the second-floor room shivered as Alpha stepped further into the building. Moonlight filtered through the roof gap, his long cloak almost absorbing every ray of light around him, leaving a moving shadow trailing behind. The hunter didn't hiss, didn't rush forward. It hung between wall and ceiling, its empty black eyes as if waiting for an invisible signal. The girl, the seventh key, backed against the wall, her breaths ragged, enough for me to hear her lungs wheeze. The smell of burning smoke clung to her clothes, stronger now, as warmth escaped her body. Alpha spoke, each word heavy. Come here. The hunter slid down a bit, but still kept its distance. Harper grabbed my hand, whispering, see? It's not a servant. It's a chained beast. Alpha can only pull the leash when he wants. Miles interjected, and if he lets go, it will tear everything apart, even him. Lena ground her teeth. We can't let her fall into anyone's hands. Ethan signaled. We all spread out, forming a half circle around the girl. Alpha took another step. The hunter lowered its body, 4 limbs clinging to the wall, moving like a crawling spider without making a sound. I glanced through the broken window outside. Black clouds gathered, obscuring the moon. Wind rose, carrying the smell of salt and a sharp, fishy stench. Then, Alpha flicked his hand, lightly. The hunter lunged. Harper shouted, now. We all passed through the girl's body. A freezing sensation surged, her heartbeat echoing in my ears. When we emerged, I saw her eyes dim for a moment, then shine again, as if she had gained a strange, new power. The hunter froze, eyes widening for the first time. I saw emotion in them, surprise. Alpha also stopped, his thin smile vanishing. Colin yelled, run to the crack. We pulled the girl toward the second-floor window. Wind rushed in, icy as water, carrying the scent of rotting seaweed. Below, the black cracks of the Omega Gate spread across the ground like veins, shaking in rhythm with the pounding knocks behind. No longer a signal, but the sound of pursuit. As we jumped down, the hunter leaped after the window, its claws scraping deeply against the wall, creating a piercing shriek. Alpha remained still, his gaze tracking every step, memorizing the location of the crack. Harper dragged the girl into the gap. Just before I followed, I looked back. The hunter hung on the window frame, staring straight at me. No hatred, number, bloodlust. Only a whisper echoed in my mind. When the gate opens, I will no longer belong to him. Then the darkness of the crack swallowed me. Episode 8. The gate opens. The wind screamed in bursts, but it was not the wind of sea or mountain. It came from the ground itself, each crack pulsing like a giant lung, inhaling and exhaling. With every inhale, icy air slammed in, carrying the stench of wet mud mixed with the burnt temps of iron. With every exhale, thick heat rolled out, heavy like fog infused with the smell of burnt hair and flowing pine resin. We stood at the edge of the Omega crack. It was no longer the thin fissures of before now. It yawned wide, a mouth so deep, the darkness swallowed all sight. Yet I could feel something staring back from within. The first sound was not a knock. It was a deep, drawn-out vibration, resonating through my ribs like an overtensed cello string. The frequency unbalanced my legs, twisting my stomach as if someone had wrung it. At the same time, the ground around the fissure began to ooze a thick black liquid. Its smell resembled old, waterlogged printed paper, mixed with the metallic scent of worn steel. But strangely, inhaling too long made my mind hazy, my eyelids heavy. Lena covered her nose, but I knew it was futile. The scent had seeped through our skin, above the sky, thickened with black clouds. But they were no ordinary storm clouds. They twisted and moved like burnt flesh, writhing contrary to the wind from below. Lightning flickered inside, silent, revealing fleeting shapes, neither fully human nor entirely beast. Ethan tilted his head, eyes fixed on the fissure. "It's awake." I did not ask who it was, because at that moment, a second sound cut through footsteps, but not striking the ground, instead echoing all around, as if dozens of feet walked across the sky itself, each step pounding down my neck. The scent of mint. No, not quite mint. This time it was crushed fresh leaves, cool, but with a dry, bitter temps on the tongue. It seeped into the throat, making every swallow feel like gulping shards of icy wind. Harper shivered slightly. "The hunter is coming, but it's not alone." Miles turned to me, voice sharp. "Prepare yourself. Alpha won't miss this moment." And indeed, from the far side of the open ground, Alpha's long cloak appeared, trailing a dark streak across the earth. But unlike before, he did not conceal his urgency. As Alpha stepped forward, the ground beneath his feet changed color. The grass instantly withered, the soil turned ashy gray, then crumbled into dust carried by the wind. Across from him, the hunter appeared, crawling along the fissure like a pale lizard. Its deep black eyes locked onto us, and between them, in the heat rising from the gate, a shape began to form twice the height of a normal human. Its body discontinuous, pieced together from hundreds of fragments, arms, joints, fragments of spine, all merged into one entity, yet moving rhythmically as if breathing in sync with the earth itself. I tasted blood in my mouth, though uninjured. My throat went bitter. My head swayed, my ears rang as the low vibration grew in amplitude. This was not fear alone. My body was reacting to something it knew did not belong to this world. Ethan murmured, almost to himself, "When the gate fully opens, no one remains on either side, only it." And then, the omega crack widened further, the low hum from the fissure shifted into irregular beats, like the heartbeat of a colossal creature accelerating. With each pulse, the ground vibrated, sending fine dust into a misty cloud that tasted oddly sweet on the tongue, a strange flavor that made my throat tingle and churn. Harper gripped the seventh key tightly, whispering, "Hold your breath. Don't let this scent into your lungs." But it was useless. The smell had seeped into every crevice, through skin, and all the way into our minds. It was a blend of scorched flesh, rotting berries, and the acrid tang of acid-laden rain. Alpha stepped forward. The click of his heels on the ground sounded like a hammer striking a coffin, dry, solid, echoless. The hunter advanced as well, but along a curved path. Keeping a measured distance from Alpha, I noticed something strange. The patch of ground between them remained unaffected by the gate's breath, the grass still green, the soil still damp. It was as if there was a neutral zone that both avoided. Ethan saw it too, and nodded lightly. "That's the seam. If it's broken, the gate will collapse." Alpha heard it as well. He tilted his head, a thin smile cutting across his face like a paper slit. The sky cracked. Not clouds, the blackness itself split, revealing a dim white glow, like bones under a lamp. The snapping sound wasn't piercing, yet it resonated straight through my ribs, sending chills down my spine. From the fissure, long tendrils, like bovine sinews, hung down, swaying gently with the tremor of the ground. They carried a faint, fishy smell, like rainwater mixed with cold ashes. Miles swore, "The sky belongs to it too." The hunter lunged suddenly, not toward us, nor Alpha, but straight for the neutral zone. Alpha reacted instantly, a flick of his hand, black wind erupting, carrying the screams of dozens of overlapping voices. The scent of burning mint surged, stinging our eyes, forcing us to our knees. Lena yelled, "Cover your eyes, don't look." But I did, and I saw the black wind wasn't wind at all, but hundreds of hands, grasping each other, twisting into a vortex to block the hunter's path. The seventh key girl collapsed, clutching her chest. Her breath turned into a thin wisp of smoke, drifting straight toward the fissure. Harper panicked. "No, the gate is pulling her in." Ethan snapped, voice commanding, "Raymond, we have to push them both back." But as I stepped forward, Alpha and the hunter turned toward me simultaneously, eyes opposite, one absolute control, the other desperate hunger, and I realized they were not enemies. They were two halves of the same entity, separated so that the gate could exist. Asterisk, the wind from the fissure was no longer just gusts, it was a continuous pressure, as if all the air had been squeezed from my chest. My ears rang. Dust from the ground swirled thickly, sticking to my skin and lips. The smell was indistinguishable, now a paralyzing mix of bitter ash, the acrid temps of old blood, and the searing heat of molten metal. The girl, the seventh key, collapsed to her knees, trembling uncontrollably. Her eyes were wide open, pupils dilated, as if someone was pulling her soul outward. From her chest, a thin thread of light rose, drifting straight toward the fissure. Alpha stepped forward, his voice metallic, grinding like iron against iron. "Give it to me. I will keep the gate open." The hunter slithered toward her, black eyes glinting with dim blue. "No, return it to me, so I can destroy it." I realized that it they both referred to was the missing part of themselves. Alpha was the mind, the hunter instinct. Separated to let the gate exist. Now both sought reunion, but with opposite goals. Harper ground her teeth. If Alpha wins, the gate will stay open forever. If the hunter wins, Ethan finished for her. It will annihilate both sides, leaving nothing. With no other choice, we formed a circle around the girl. Each ghostly hand touched the shoulder of the next, a cold current linking us into one. Miles growled, "Raymond, lead it into us." I charged at the hunter as it lunged. Its hand was icy, piercing my skin like flowing ice, and in an instant, its memories flooded me: hunts, dragged corpses, silenced screams. But in between, I saw the silver chain tethering it to Alpha. I yanked hard. Alpha screamed a sound not human, like hundreds of breaking metals at once. He surged forward, but Harper and Lena blocked him, their bodies radiating light that made his cloak smolder. The chain snapped immediately. The hunter arched, letting out a long roar, then lunged at Alpha. They collided, bodies merging like water, pouring into water, spiraling into a single mass of light and darkness. The fissure shrieked a high-pitched scream, shaking everything, the sky above fracturing into thousands of shards. The scents of damp earth, burning iron, and rotting leaves swirled together, then were sucked back into the gate's mouth. The girl fell, gasping. Omega Gate contracted, the fissure's edges closing like the stitched mouth of some creature. The last light inside vanished, leaving the ground silent, only the cold scent of night dew lingering. We stood there, silent. Each of us knew that as the gate closed, the link between us would vanish too. This was the last time we would be together. Ethan smiled softly, voice like the wind. "At least this time, humanity will not know what was on the other side." Then everything faded. Raymond was the last to vanish. In that instant, I heard the low hum again, faint and distant, echoing as if from a dream. And I knew the thing on the other side was not dead, only sleeping. But this time, it slept without Alpha or the hunter guarding it. And perhaps that was the most terrifying part.